Today's show is an interview with Dr. Asha Bohannon. You're listening to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, a journey-style podcast about my career change from pharmacist to voice actor. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. I alternate solo shows and interview shows. The solo shows are about my career change, and the interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate, educate, or entertain. Thank you for joining me for episode 9. Picture this. On a Friday morning in April 2018, I drove all the way from my home in Northwest Ohio to Asheville, North Carolina. I was headed to the first ever Metapreneurs Conference, a weekend-long conference for healthcare entrepreneurs. According to Google Maps, the drive should have been 9 hours. With traffic, construction zones, and stops for gas, food, and bathroom, it was more like 11 hours. I made the trip alone, and I was exhausted when I arrived. The conference was held at the Crowne Plaza Resort and Hotel, and as soon as I checked in, the meet and greet was already underway in the hotel's bar. I hustled in without changing my clothes. I made quite an entrance in my sweatpants, t-shirt, and ball cap. After shaking a few hands and meeting a few conference attendees, I ordered food from the bartender. I was starving. As I was chowing down at the bar, I looked over and saw someone else eating the same thing. It was Dr. Asha Bohannon. We bonded over Cobb salads, drinks, and business startup conversation. It was great. Asha and I formed a tight group with some others over that weekend, and we've been in touch ever since. We reconnected at the 2019 Metapreneurs Conference, too. I'm glad we met, and it has been a pleasure to watch her develop her business over the past 2 years. Dr. Asha Pai Bohannon has more than 23 years of experience in the healthcare industry. She's a holistic doctor of pharmacy and the owner of PAI Wellness Group, LLC in Raleigh, North Carolina. She earned her Doctor of Pharmacy, PharmD degree, from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Dr. Asha is a certified diabetes care and education specialist, CDCES, and certified personal trainer, CPT. She is also certified in medication therapy management, MTM, and immunization. In her practice at PAI Wellness Group, Dr. Asha uses a unique 7 steps to harmony process and a 360-degree holistic, individualized approach to helping her patients manage their health and wellness using as few medications as possible. Dr. Asha is especially focused on and adept at helping men and women manage prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes. Recently, Dr. Asha published a book entitled To Medicate or Not? That is the Question, How to Improve Your Blood Test Results, in which she describes her 7 steps to harmony and the many factors that come into play in order to achieve a healthier life. Her newest passion comes in the form of a collaboration with her husband, Eric, helping other pharmacists find their passion and purpose and create the opportunity that is right for them. With their BizRx service, they want to be the prescription for your business. Without further ado, this is my interview with Dr. Asha Bohannon. Hi, Asha. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kim, for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Good to have you. The reason I wanted to have you on is because we met a couple years ago at the Metapreneurs Conference in Asheville, North Carolina, and we both started with an idea of what we wanted our business to be, and boy, have we come far since then.
Absolutely. Yeah. So exciting to watch.
It's exciting to watch you, and I want to talk about the evolution. That's the theme for this podcast. You are an advocate for health and wellness, and you started off with one idea, and it's really evolved. So I'd love to hear how this all started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. You're right. It started with my own personal health journey and my journey in pharmacy. So it was kind of the two together. I really do strongly believe that my health issues started with my career in pharmacy, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the stress and lack of self-care that I was so focused on my patients and my job and making everybody else happy that it kind of made my own health fail. And so as I was working through pharmacy, I felt like I was feeding people's illnesses. And I knew that I just didn't want to be in that space anymore. And so once I started having children, I call them my get out of jail free card, because it was my time to really sit back and think of what my priorities were. It got me thinking about my immediate surroundings, and myself. And so I started to look at other opportunities out there, which back then, about almost 10 years ago, there wasn't that many opportunities outside of the traditional roles of pharmacy. And so I actually got into some network marketing companies, did some of that, and learned a lot of really great skills, as far as relationship management and building, sales and marketing, and how to really present yourself in a way that gets your point across and what you're trying to do. And so that was really an awesome piece to my story that a lot of people shun network marketing, and I get why, but there was just so many golden nuggets for me that I learned in that journey, in that piece of the journey. And then from there, I really got to thinking about my pharmacy career and where I wanted things to go, and kind of going back to those days when right after I graduated, when you were so excited and passionate about pharmacy and what was to come and all those things, all those feelings that we had, and really wanted to get back to that because I had lost pretty much all of it by that point. I had been out of school, for a good 12 to 14 years at that point, and working in independent retail pharmacy for a majority of that. And just want to get back to the passion that I had felt when I first came out. And so that's where kind of this half of the journey has started.
What would you say is the name of your company right now? It seems like you have two. Would that be right?
Well, I have one company with several different services. So I've named the services a little different. But so the name of the company is the Patient Advocacy Initiative Wellness Group. And the Patient Advocacy Initiative is actually the initials to my maiden name, Pai. So it's the PAI Wellness Group. And under that, we've gone kind of two intertwining but separate ways. So one is called the 7 Steps to Harmony program. And that is basically a process that I created with the acronym of H.A.R.M.O.N.Y to share with my clients and people that come in front of me in my pathway that are looking for wellness, but it's holistic wellness. So we're looking at every single aspect, 360-degree view of their life, to help them find their wellness and really get a hold of their wellness journey. And in fact, I actually wrote a book about it, and it was published last year. It is now out. It's in my hands in paperback, and it will be out later this summer in paperback on Amazon and various bookstores. So super excited about that. And then the second half to my business is actually called BizRx. And that is actually a service for other pharmacists. And we're looking to expand it to other healthcare entrepreneurs, but really and truly my passion is to work with other pharmacists because we are in such a volatile and disruptive point in our profession. And I feel like people are looking for options and answers and don't know where to go.
I would say the first time we went to Metapreneurs, which was in 2018, it was more of the former, the first part of the company that you're talking about. And then when you came back in 2019, you brought somebody with you, and it seemed like you added that additional service, the BizRx. Who did you bring with you in 2019?
Yes, thanks for asking that. So it was my husband, H.A.R.M.O.N.Y. He is number one. He's my number one supporter, and was really coming to hear about what kind of things are going on in pharmacy. So he just really came for the information, and he has his MBA. He has his MBA in strategic marketing and planning of services for large IT companies like Cisco, Lenovo. et cetera. And so when we were at the Metapreneurs, it was really interesting because one of my biggest passions is really inspiring people and motivating people to move and just to get out of their own way. And one of his biggest passions is actually bringing like the strategic planning of services and marketing and getting businesses up and running. And so when we left the conference, it was like both of our brains were on fire. People had been asking us if we would coach them separately. And so it just really made sense to us to combine a program and work together, which we've been wanting to do for, since we got married, is to start a business together. And this just seemed like the perfect marriage, pun intended. And so we did. We came together and we put together this basically a 10-week program of idea and niching down to all the way to go-to-market strategy. So you're launching your business, and it's a business much like mine, where it's a wellness practice, but it's your own private practice. And so 10 weeks idea to launch, and you work with both of us very closely, and we do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So there's not a lot of you having to go and do the research. That's what Eric does. He's the business minded guy, so he does all of that for you. And then I do all of the tactical, clinical systems and processes, all of that. How do you do this? And then for those of you that are pharmacist moms out there, because I know there's a lot. Really, how do you do that with a job and kids and the other 50,000 hats that you wear in a day? So that's my goal, is to really get you up and running.
I love it. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, it was your support too that helped me through this.
We had our core little group, didn't we, that first year? And we kept in touch. And it's been a pleasure to see you go as far as you have. And I've enjoyed your support as I've gone forward on my journey too. Couldn't do it without all my support. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like when in 2019, you and Eric came to the Metapreneurs Conference, it was then that you realized you had a passion for coaching, or when really did it start, your passion for coaching?
So it's interesting. I've always kind of had a passion for coaching. I've always been asked to do things like that, and I just never felt the right niche for me, and how I would go out and do that and be able to help impact as many people as I would want to impact. And so it's just always kind of been in the back of my mind. And then when I was there and I was standing amongst, a group of people, and I would be talking, and then somebody would be like, "Oh my gosh, you should coach people." And it just kind of kept coming. It was a recurring theme. And that's when it was just like, "Oh my gosh, I need to do this." And so that's when it happened. And then when he was being asked, in different circles to do the business coaching, and he had kind of thought about it before. We had talked about it a couple summers ago that he was really interested in pursuing that. He just didn't really know where that would come in. It just felt like it just fit. And it kind of fell into our laps, so to speak, which I think a lot of things do. And you just have to be willing to open up your heart, your mind, and your ears to what comes to you, and really you'll feel it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I feel about it.
When you started coaching, I'm sure you started with that first client. Has it grown? Has your clientele grown? What's that like?
Yes, it absolutely has. So our very first couple of clients actually came from the Metapreneurs conference that we were at. And to watch them is phenomenal. I absolutely am one of their biggest supporters and fans. And it's been great to watch their journey, and to know that we've had a small part of that they're doing the hard work, but we were able to get them off and launched and running. It's been fantastic. And it has been growing ever since then. So we've been able to keep a steady stream of clients and people that are interested. And I think a large part of that is because of the disruption in pharmacy, technology taking over, and these traditional roles are kind of coming to a very bare minimum. And so people are looking for answers. And there are a ton of answers out there. And Eric and I just hope that we're one of those answers for whoever it's right for. I love to have just conversations with whoever is interested in learning more. And if it's the right fit, great. And if it's not, I will absolutely share with you any other referral sources or wherever, that they need to go. But to me, I think that the more answers that we can have and the more opportunities that are out there, the better off as a profession as a whole will be.
It sounds like you coach pharmacists to do what the other side of your business does. Is that right? The wellness practice?
Yeah, so it can be a wellness practice. There's various things that can go on. So we've actually had a lot of different niches come through, which has really that's the exciting part for me too, is I get to research a lot on different things. So it's not, I'm actually a diabetes educator. So I'm diabetes driven, pre-diabetes, gestational, type 1, type 2, but all the other ones have been other things. So we've got a lot of women's health issues or clinics. We've got migraine clinics. We've got travel clinics. We've got all sorts of different niches. And I think it's fascinating to see because, and then we create the services based on what their niche is. So it's all similar to mine in that it's a private practice, but it's not exactly like mine.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You serve all types of pharmacists with different backgrounds and different ambitions. And that's what my listeners need to know because they can contact you. And how do they contact you if they're interested in being coached?
Absolutely. So I can share my email address. My email address is Asha, ASHA, at PAI, PAI Wellness Group.com. All one word, PAI Wellness Group. Or you can find me at the website, PAIWellnessGroup.com, and set up an appointment through our appointment form there. And I would love to talk to anybody. We do a free 30-minute consult just to kind of see where you're at, what you're interested in, and if this would be a right fit or not. And if not, then I will absolutely give you various options to go look at or any referrals that I might have too.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I want to switch gears and talk about your book, To Medicate or Not, That is the Question, The Ultimate Guide to Improving Blood Test Results.
So, yeah, that has been a passion of mine for a long time as well. So that actually started, I had wanted to be an author since I was like 10 years old and never thought about what I would write about or when that would be. And something sparked in me back at the end of 2018, early 2019, where through my own health journey, I had been struggling and I had put myself through the 7 steps to harmony process that I practice. My practice actually works on, and then also the book is about. So I wanted to share with people about our healthcare system, the struggles that I've seen with it, not only with myself, but with other clients and other my parents and other people that have come across my path. And so I wanted a place to put that out into the world. And so I decided that I was going to write this book. And as I mentioned earlier, I felt like for many years I was feeding people's illnesses in the traditional pharmacy role of staff pharmacy. And I am a very kind of East meets West kind of mentality. And so I do a lot of things that are non-traditional. There are Eastern type of things or, stress management, things like that all play into what your wellness journey can look like. And when we just look at the Western side and we're only putting on medications to it, I feel like it's all Band-Aids. And I say that because that's how I was. That's what my health journey started out to be. And I just had to put a stop to it. So I wanted to put all of that out into the world and say, there are other ways to actually get well. And so I'm very much, I do want to put in there that I'm very much of the mindset that if there's medications that are necessary, then I'm not going to tell you not to be on them because they're necessary, but I will be that 50-50 kind of in the middle practitioner. So.
The part of the title that addresses improving blood test results, Could you speak to that? Did you feel like you had seen patients who were maybe trying to get their numbers right, but really their health as a whole wasn't where it needed to be? Can you address that piece?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Yeah, so I was actually that patient. I'm going to be honest. So my blood test results in various places were off. And I'm using air quotes because you can't see that right now, but they were off, and I was being told to take this medication or that medication. It was very, I felt spot treating. And I knew there was, number one, a root cause or something else that was going on that wasn't being addressed, and nobody wanted to take the time to figure it out. And on top of that, I knew there were other aspects of my life that I was not controlling. Like I said, self-care was never a top priority, or, sleep was not a top priority, or, the list could probably go on and on and on, but this is only so long of a show. So, those things came up, and that's when I started addressing those things in the manner that I lay out in the book. Is when my health started to take an upturn and start to look better. And I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when I started to say, no, I don't want to do the medications because that's not going to fix it. And I started knowing what was right for me and my body. That's when things started turning. And that's really what I want to get across in the book and with my practice and what I'm doing with even the BizRx. And teaching others to do, is that this is really personalized. And this is about really looking at each individual as an individual and helping them along their journey. And so that's what this 7 Steps to Harmony is about. Looking at you 360 degrees. What is it in your life that we can help change, adjust? We use the term lifestyle changes a lot. I mean, it's all across everywhere, right? But it's more than just lifestyle changes. It's because I feel like that, to a certain extent, has been overplayed. And so then people are like, I don't want to change my lifestyle. Well, that's okay. But there are other things that we can be doing, and we have to do this in a harmonious way. The other word that I feel is a little bit overused is balance. And that's why I use the word harmony, because I feel like balance, when I think of the word balance, I think of you like holding, a Chinese acrobat's holding plates and spinning them in the air, and then one falls, they all come crashing down. So that's what I envision when I see balance. And so harmony to me is you can have everything. You can be spinning plates, but then you're going to put this set down and you're going to spin this set. And it's just, it all works very harmoniously together. And that's what your life should be. You're not going to be able to do it all perfectly all the time, but what can you do at the same time that's going to work the best for you? And so that's what all of this is about. And it's about those blood test results, because that's where I was at, and I did not want to medicate myself for them. Now, there are some, I'm a diabetes educator, and I work with diabetes patients. I'm going to be honest, I don't tell everybody to get off their diabetes medications. That is not what I'm here to do. But can we do things in your life to balance out some of the medications that you have to take, or can we do enough to maybe be able to get you off of some? Yes, absolutely. And that's what I want to share and get the point across to as many people as I can.
I loved the book. I read it. I left a review for you on Amazon, and I will leave the name of the book and the link to Amazon in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you want to check out Asha's book, check out the show notes. All right. And now, are you planning a second book? I meant to ask you that. Is there a second book in the works?
There is a second book in the works. It's probably going to be a little bit further removed from the first one. Just a lot of life things going on right now, but I've already started writing. So yes, be on the lookout.
That's exciting.
Yes, thank you.
I remember you coming to Metapreneurs last year, and you said you wrote a book, and I was like, wow, that's so exciting. I had no idea. We had talked, but you had a secret.
I will say I kept that a secret from literally everybody but my husband. It was just, I stayed in a hole and I kept it there because I felt like if I said it to somebody, it would be too much pressure. And I just thought I would just keep it to myself and do it. And I did. So, and just to be honest, I actually wrote the book in less than 10 weeks. Because when I sat down to write, it was all there. And it was the kind of what I say, the soapbox that I've been talking about for so many years. And so it was so natural to write.
Congratulations again. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome. Now back to your business. What is the craziest thing you've seen so far?
Ooh, craziest thing I've seen so far. So I'm gonna kind of split it into two. So I'm gonna talk about my wellness practice first. But the craziest thing that I see in that side of my practice is the amount of people that will not spend money on their own healthcare. I'm going to be honest about that. I think we're making strides in that way, but for some reason, people will spend money on anything else under the sun. But when you talk about healthcare, it's difficult. It's difficult to get them to see their own value. And so that's been a hurdle, but it's a good hurdle because I thrive off of that. I'm like, okay, I've got to be able to show somebody their value and their worth. And that's almost the same thing in the business side too, is that I have to strive to show people their value and their worth, in particular in pharmacy, because we've been undervalued for the amount of knowledge that we bring to the table for so long and so many years. And so I think those two things on both sides are very similar, but different. Does that make sense? But I think the undervaluing of ourselves in general as a population or as a whole is the craziest thing that I've ever seen.
It's a great answer. And I feel like when you have one person that comes up with that excuse not to address their health, or they feel like it's a barrier to getting healthy, then you're more prepared the next time you hear it to say, you know what, I had another person. They thought that too. This is how they got over it. Don't you feel like you're able to help them better because you just know that concern that they may have?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that prepares you. It's like that coat of armor that you have to get on every single time. So for those of you that are listening, you're going to hear it a lot, but that's okay because they have to see it for themselves to be able to get the results that they need. And until that happens, there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to change that. And so I really strongly believe that all we can do is share with them what we see and be the ear to listen. And then they'll eventually come around is what I've seen.
I'm going to hit you with a different question here. What do you love most about your business?
Oh, there's so many things, Kim. I really, so I'm going to start with, I love the flexibility, the time and even financial flexibility, but being able to work this around my family, which is very, very extremely important to me. You know that about me, Kim. And so being able to be there for my children, to wear the other 50 hats in a day that I wear a lot of times, so many other things that I do outside of just being an entrepreneur, that are very important to me. And so that's probably the number one thing that I love about it. The number two thing is I have also the flexibility to be able to help whoever I want to help and whoever wants to help. And I feel like when I was in the traditional pharmacy roles, I really my hands were tied a lot and I wasn't able to provide the care and the help that people actually needed. So that's probably the biggest things that I love. And then now I love working with my husband, which is really exciting to be able to do. So, and then being able to make an impact in the profession of pharmacy. That's really, like I said at the beginning, a huge passion that's growing bigger and bigger on the daily. that I want to impact where our profession heads in various ways. And so that has become a new true passion of mine.
Awesome. I love seeing your face light up when you tell me all that too. It's so exciting. All right. Well, I know that you have flexibility and you have these things that you love to do, but I got to talk about something that affects all of us entrepreneurs, and that's imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say you overcame the fear and that little voice in your head that told you you can't do this, Asha?
So it's funny because I talk about this with my clients all the time. It's a growing process. And I will tell you, I'm a personal development junkie. If you saw the stack of books in my house right now that I still have yet to read, and I do like my actual books in hand. So I'm not an audiobook reader very much, but I think I'm going to have to start being one. Especially with what you're doing.
You got to support a friend here. Come on.
I'm sorry. I will absolutely support you every step of the way, Kim. But I think that's where it all started, because it took me a lot of years to get out of my own way. And so my goal now is to help people do the same thing. And I think in pharmacy in particular, we are completely in our own ways. We get struck by analysis paralysis every day. And when we don't know something or we have fear over something, we actually tend to focus our energy on the things that we already know, or gaining more knowledge about clinical things. And I say this because I literally have this conversation every single day. And it's not, that's all great. And I'm all for that. I love professional development, personal development, all of that great stuff. But it's stopping you from moving forward. And so what I did was I did a lot of just mindset change, and saying, I'm just going to go do this. And if I fall on my face, which I'm sure I have quite a few times, then I just pick myself back up. I dust off and keep moving forward. And quite honestly, I use my children a lot as my motivation. I can't stop going because they're going to see me. So that is huge for me. And I'm just going to be honest. I think there's a meme out there that I saw with a mama lion and a baby cub. And it said on there, you never know who's falling behind you. And it was her child. So you can't stop. And so that's what every day, that's what I say is I have to do this for my children, for the children that are watching, whether they're mine or not. It's just really important for me to show the next generation that we can do this. And it just takes a lot of hard work, but keep moving forward.
Kind of on a similar vein to what you were just saying, what's something that some people don't realize about being a pharmacist mom and an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm going to say, I think as a pharmacist mom, in the traditional roles, I think is more difficult than anybody could ever possibly imagine. I was crying all the time when I was in that role, because you want to be home with your children, you want to be able to make it to their school functions, but you're tied. You're tied to a schedule. You're tied to very rigorous schedules, and then you come home and you're worried about what you did all day, and you're stressed about that. And so you're not necessarily 100% present. But as a pharmacist mom entrepreneur, what I found is I have that flexibility to be at those events, to be with my children, to be present in the moment. And that's the one thing that I really strive to do. And I've spent the last probably 2 or 3 years really focusing on being present with everything that I'm doing. So whether it's work or family or PTA or whatever it is, I'm in it, and I'm in it fully. And that allows me to be able to be the person that I want to be in all those different areas.
I think you're doing great. I would agree with pretty much everything you say. Being present is important. Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you say You can agree or disagree. It's up to you. When you start a business, it becomes like another child. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree with that. Completely agree with that. It is your other child, especially at the very beginning. I'm going to say the first probably 2 to 3 years. If you're in it all the way, it is another child. And then you throw, the kids and the husband. I'm going to call my husband a child. And he would agree. But, so it is another child. But when you're passionate about what you're doing, just like you're passionate about having children or being married or whatever, when you're passionate about what you're doing, it's not a bear of a child. Does that make sense? Because there's nothing that I wouldn't do for my children, just like there's nothing I wouldn't do to build this business and help make an impact in people's lives.
I hear you. When I started my business, it became like a child, and you fight for it mentally. Yeah. You're with your children, you're with your husband, you're with your family, you're doing your PTA, whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. But then when you're not with them, it occupies your mind, your space. But I don't know about you, but when I was working in the community practice setting, I would leave and I would try really hard not to think about work. Mm-hmm. Now with being an entrepreneur, I want to think about my business even when I'm not doing it. I'm very present with my children, of course, but I get so many great thoughts when I don't expect it. And that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I have a lot of notes in my phone all the time.
There you go.
Different places that I get these ideas or inspirations. But one thing that I tell people, Kim, this is one phrase that I use all the time, is when you jump out of bed in the morning, do you want to jump out of bed in the morning? That's the thing, is do you want to jump out of bed in the morning and get to doing whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's with your kids, with your business, with your job, whatever it is. And if not, then you need to be doing something that sets your soul on fire. That is my ultimate phrase. People say it, but I truly I want to grab somebody and say, what sets your soul on fire? Because that's what is really going to drive you. And that's what these businesses and these services and all these things are doing for me. And so when you said it was like a child, yes, it's like a child because you got to nurture it and you got to do the thing, but it doesn't feel like that. You know what I mean? It's just something that really just, I can't even explain the passions that I feel, or the just wanting to jump out of bed every day and get to do this is so awesome. And so, yeah, that's what I tell people is like, yes, it is. There's a lot of hard work that you got to put into it, but if you enjoy it, it's not going to feel like work.
Have you ever seen the Christmas movie called Elf?
Yes, I have.
All right. Will Ferrell is really excited about Santa coming. Do you remember that part?
I do.
And he says, Santa, I know him. When I'm doing my medical narration practice, excuse me, I will see something and I know what they're talking about. I get so excited. It comes across when I'm reading. I actually have to tone it down. I get so excited about what I'm doing. And I feel like that is what any entrepreneur should feel like about what they're doing. It's Santa. You get excited about what you're doing.
Yes, I completely agree. That is a great analogy or scene to think about, but that's exactly right. You should be just as excited when you're doing what you're doing. And no, I will be honest, it's not like that every day. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's some things that I've had to narrate, and it's a challenge to try to make myself interested enough. Like, what angle can I think about this at? Can I pretend that I'm a professor giving a TED Talk at some famous hall somewhere? Sure. Yeah, I can pretend that. And I can pretend that I can bring that energy to what I'm narrating so that I can imagine somebody sitting through it and geeking out about it. That's we all have our challenges. Yeah. Mine's probably a little more abstract.
Well, but the challenges are challenges. And I think, a lot of people get struck with, for example, the business side of things. Like, that is not my mojo. And it kind of stresses me out to think about it. But of course, that's Eric's mojo. So, everybody's got their strengths. But the idea is when you start a business, there's going to be a lot of footwork and groundwork that needs to be laid. That is not the most exciting part. It's not luxurious. It's not glamorous. But the way I get through it is actually thinking about the end result. Mm-hmm. So maybe I have to create this course, or I have to create this video, or whatever it is, or I have to do this research to figure this out, or whatever. There's always that end result that, okay, so why am I doing this again? So really getting back to the why of why you're doing, number one, any of this, but why are you doing this particular action? And if you know what the end result is, you will push harder to get there. So I kind of equate it. I used to be a half marathon runner, and I equated to that a lot in my brain, because I say used to, because I'm not as young as I used to be, but I stopped after a little while, but hence the health journey as well. But but what I equate to it is, when I would be running these half marathons, I could get to like mile 10 and out of 13.1, I could do it. I would be in stride. It was good. But by mile 10, I was done. I was like, I can't, there's no way I can go further. But that last 3.1 is that junk that we don't want to do. But what is the end result is finishing this milestone of a half marathon. So I would get this completely different mindset, and I would start sprinting because I knew that the end was coming. And that's how I equate my business or anything that I'm doing, that I'm like, I'm not really jiving with this. I really don't want to do this part, but it's like, okay, but the end is coming. So I'm going to sprint and I'm going to make it happen. Does that make sense? So and not every half marathon runner does that, but that's just always been my thing. And so every time it was every time 10 miles, I'm done. So what do I do to get through that clunky, junky part that I don't want to go through to get to that, the end of the race, So that's how I kind of picture things when I'm doing it.
Sounds like you've got something figured out where you can get to the finish point. You can finish things, and that's great. You have to be able to do that when you're the business owner, because nobody's going to come in and say, oh, I'll do this for you, or you can't leave it for the next shift. When you're an entrepreneur, you are the doer. You have to finish the things, and you have figured it out, and I applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun figuring all of it out.
I'd like to know, what did it feel like when you got that first client?
Amazing. Should I just leave it there? Anytime we get our first client, it feels amazing, but it's also nerve-wracking. I'm going to be honest. Like, when you get that first client, you want to make sure you're going to get them the results that they want or they need. So there's a lot of extra energy and time that goes into that very first client, to make sure that you're setting up your processes right. Things have, change things as you go along, and making sure you're really, a few steps ahead of that person, to make sure you're giving them the best quality experience. But it's amazing to really get to start making that impact for the first time in somebody's life. And that goes with both sides of the business, whether it's with the wellness and the health journey or the business side. Either way, it's making that impact is so huge, but it's also nerve-wracking.
Asha, I'm going to ask you one last thing. What is the best thing that has happened since you started your business?
Kim, that's a great question. The best thing that's happened is being able to make an impact in people's lives. I will just be very honest, whether, again, it's the health journey or being the prescription for your business in BizRx, just being able to help people find options that they may not have ever found is the best feeling on the planet.
That's awesome. It sounds like you love what you do, and that is great.
Absolutely. I would not change anything for the world. And it's been a journey to get here, but I would not change any of it.
Well, as we wrap this up, I want to ask, can you please share your contact information and your website one more time?
Sure. My email address is Asha, A-S-H-A, at PAI Wellness Group, PAI Wellness Group, all one word, .com. And the website is PAIWellnessGroup.com.
Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we say goodbye?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Kim, for this opportunity and being so supportive along the years. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since we met, and I feel just so connected to you, and I appreciate all that you are and all that you do on a regular basis. So thank you so much.
Yep, my pleasure. And we're going to stay connected, aren't we?
Absolutely, for life.
All right. Well, thanks again, Dr. Asha Bohannon, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Pharmacist Voice podcast with me, your host, Kim Newlove. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to subscribe and read the show notes. That's thepharmacist, with an S, voice.com.